next up is Matthew Mobley. He's going to talk to us about growing Ozark Chinquapins in the Delta. And Matthew has known Steve for a very long time. I've gotten the opportunity to get to know him in the last several years. And if you have a little bit of time this afternoon, try to get to know this man because he is an interesting character. And he does live down in the part of the southeastern lowlands that you would not expect these trees to live. And what we have found through some searches through looking at old botanical sources, old newspaper articles, and living history interviews, these trees did live in the lowlands. They weren't up on the Ozarks exclusively. They were also down in some of these areas that otherwise we would say, nah, that's probably not where they live. So Matthew's going to tell us more about that. And what I'd like for you to do is just welcome him with a big round of applause as he
Thank you very much. My name is Matt Mobley. I am not a scientist. It won't take you long to figure that out. But I am an enthusiastic conservationist, and I've got a kind of a unique location where I live. It's in the Missouri Delta, or the Mississippi Delta lands, and I've grown some trees in a couple of different places, and I'll show them and try not to take too long. All right. The first place I started trees was in northeast Arkansas. Right there. That is Greenway, Arkansas, and that is right on Crowley's Ridge. So, here's some of my first attempts. And I will tell you that the Crowley's Ridge has a lot of variety in the soil types, and it's all mixed up. You may have small pockets of sand, or you may have small pockets of clay, or they may be large. So it's kind of a crapshoot whenever you plant a tree. This is the best tree I had. I'm interested in hunting and stuff, and so as an appreciation by a deer, they knocked my tree over. That's the best tree I had over there. It's about 8 feet tall. It's about a 6-year-old tree. This little sprout was coming off the side of it. I've left it growing. I don't know if that helps me nourish the tree or not, but I just let it grow outside the tube. This tree here is probably the second best tree on that place I have, and it's about on the next ridge over. So you take a look at it, and it's about 5 or 6 feet tall, and you see the tube in the background. These things are like 30 feet apart, and none of them have been watered all year. That's the one 30 feet away. So I think it might have hit a hard spot in the ground or something. I mean, it died. So, like I say, I think the soil types have a lot to do with it, and it's even though we tested them and put down rebar and stuff, I think maybe they hit clay or something a little deeper. This is one of the first trees I planted over there, and Steve helped me plant that tree. It's 7 years old. It's about 6 inches tall. I think that's kind of a glade situation. That tree is healthy. And look at the leaves; they look great, but it is super short. But I thought I'd add that just to build you up, Steve. All right, that's a picture of my wife and I. That is an RPM tree at my home, and it's planted about in 2021. I'll get back to it in a minute. This is where I live. It's in the Boot Hill, Missouri. Oh, crap, excuse me. Industry term. Right here is where I have some trees planted, and then I have some right here. And most of them are in that Rosalie, loamy, fine sand, and that's about like what you find in a sandbox for your children. I mean, it is sand. The Dove Silt, even though those trees, the other trees I'm going to tell you about are right here, I think that is also already not transferring, but becoming the doves a little closer up there. That's a soil map provided by the state. This talks about the Rosalie fine sand and the Dove Silt loam, and really the big difference is the sand content. So I always thought, oh, well, you gotta have rocks and stuff, you know, to plant these Chinquapins. Steve goes, no, man, go ahead and try it. We'll see. It's kind of an experiment. And it has been. You saw the experiment over on the ridge. Well, this one's working a lot better. I'm going to show you my 2025 plantings. I added that picture, sorry. I just added that. I protect them pretty good. I mean, it's double fence. That's electrified. No, it's not really. But keeps the squirrels out. I've got some goats, and if they get out, I don't want them eating my trees. This is one of the best of this year's plantings. Now this tree, they always say, oh, you know, plant in open sun, plant in open sun. On that sand, it gets so hot and the water perks out so quickly. This tree is actually planted kind of in the shade of a cypress tree, and it is the one that is fared the best. And I think the situation just, you know, a lot of sand, it really perks out quick. I think a little bit of protection from the sun and the heat helped it. These two trees are about 30 feet away. The tree on the left, both of them, they were starting to get distressed before I started watering them, and that was a mistake on my part. But these are in the open sun. The tree on the right is a dead one. So that tree was really late in sprouting. We had a really, really wet spring, and it didn't sprout till like a couple of weeks after the other one. And they were just about 20 feet apart. But I don't think it had as much of a root development, and that is why it went ahead and died, although I kept watering it. All right, these two trees are located a little farther east there where the soil starts changing. It had a little less sand content. I didn't have to start watering them until a couple of weeks later. And neither one of them have had much distress because of the drought. So those are this year's plantings of trees. These trees, that is actually I planted two seeds there. One of them looked like it wasn't ever going to sprout, and I just kind of threw it in the ground. But both of them did sprout. One of them was in a tube for about a year, and I really think the bigger one was without the tube, but I'm not 100% sure now. But they both grew up. The good thing about these trees is they're out in open sun, and they're in that sand, but they've had limited watering. And that encourages me because for me, I think the correct goal is can I get trees to grow on their own from seed and hopefully produce seeds, and some squirrel will plant one and I'll find it later and say, yeah, man, it's working, you know. These are both 3-year-old trees. One of them's about 18 inches tall, one of them's about 24 inches tall. The same situation. They're in that sand. They've had limited watering, but I consider them to be thriving. You'll notice that these trees are a lot shorter than a lot of the trees you've seen on the pictures of growing out of the tube the first year and stuff. And I guess that has to do with some of the nutrients in the soil, maybe, and I don't know what those would be that would be determining factors. All right, I have 3 of the RPM trees. This is the best one by far. You can see the height of it. The other 2 are not quite as tall. That's the last one. These are showing the burrs at the top of this tree. This will be the first year I got any nuts off of any of these trees. But I'm pretty excited about it because I plan on planting them back where they are. And that brings up kind of a hard part of where I am and growing these trees. Where I live, where this tree is about 150 feet from a cotton field. And all around me is row crop farmland. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the cotton crops or not, but they do a lot of spraying, a lot of herbicide, a lot of pesticide spraying. So the other 2 RPM trees started out with catkins on them. one of them was really loaded up, just like this tree was. Well, they were spraying the burn down, which takes care of the weeds that are not Roundup ready crops. And there's quite a bit of drift. And, you know, I say that, and I don't say it to really be critical of the farmers. They're trying to make a living, and I'm trying to have a kind of a hobby and something I'm interested in. So in an agricultural-based economy, you can't give the farmer down the road and expect, you know, to have success in your communities. But I was encouraged. The catkins towards the top of the tree didn't get affected by the spray. So I'm going to have some nuts this year. C.D. Scott was telling us a story yesterday about a place where a guy, I guess he was a Vietnam veteran, I think that's right. Anyway, he's a guy, but he had a lot of money and he bought a big farm, and he wanted to, I guess, turn it into a cattle farm, and he sprayed the whole thing, I guess, with Agent Orange, and, you know, just killed everything out. Well, the Chinquapin trees came back, I guess, from the roots. So that was encouraging to me, because that's the same thing I might incur, although it's not a direct hit from the spray. So I think even though I've got that to contend with, I believe that the Chinquapin trees will survive. I'm happy I've heard more about the trees growing in sandy soil. I remember Larry Burford was talking about finding trees down there in South Arkansas. They're growing on creek banks. You can see here, you can't really tell the topography, but the land gets a lot lower right where this red line is. And right back here is a little river called the Varner River. It was channeled into a ditch. The floodplain of that river used to be right through here. So that's the same scenario that Larry was talking about. It's on the banks, sandy, well-drained soil on the banks of a creek. So I'm very encouraged by that. And I guess in conclusion, I want to tell you, you get those seeds, plant them. They don't have to be in rocky soil, but they need well-drained soil. And we're a part of a great conservation project. I'm very proud to be part of it. Sometimes it's just an experiment. So thanks for letting me share what I've done. And if that's helpful to you, I hope it is. Thank you very much.